Hello. Today's obscure British film is from 1952. It's a film I came across quite by accident. I think I dimly heard of it. I think it might have been quite well known in its day because it tackled what for that time was quite a radical subject. It was about the treatment of deaf and dumb children, which was very much in its infancy in those days. And there were new ideas coming in about how to deal with this problem. And it stars Jack Hawkins, for once in a more kind of sensitive, thoughtful role. He's not doing one of his heroic roles, as in seafaring, sink the Bismarck kind of things. And also Phyllis Calvert, who was a very well-known actress at the time. And the story is about a little girl called Mandy. That's the title of the film, Mandy, 1952, and she is born deaf and dumb, and her parents at first don't realise what's wrong with her when she's a baby, and then gradually they realise they don't know what to do, and eventually they're introduced to a very remarkable doctor played by Jack Hawkins, who works at a hospital and a school for deaf and dumb children. There were a number of these around Britain at the time, and had been going for quite a long time, probably since Victorian times in many cases. And you can tell that from the actual buildings. For example, the school he works at, or the home he works at, rather, is a huge, gaunt, sort of Gothic Victorian building, which would be enough to frighten any child, I should think. But that was just the normal thing in those days. But the work that he was doing reflects genuine improvements in work that were going on at that time with deaf and dumb children and with children in general, and was much more modern than the building might actually seem to imply. Anyway, the story is that there's a lot of resistance, particularly from the father, and he takes the child away again because he doesn't like the place, and takes her to Manchester where he's working, and then she's brought back to London. It's all a bit complicated, but anyway, in the long run, after lots of struggles and misunderstandings, and also poor old Jack Hawkins is accused of having an affair with Mandy's mother, which is all completely untrue and unfair. Eventually it all turns out okay, because Mandy does eventually manage to learn to read and write and to speak eventually, and she's able to communicate, and so eventually she has a much better quality of life. That's the message of the film. The message of the film is that new ideas and new developments in working with deaf and dumb children were making a huge difference. And for the time, for the early 1950s, this was a radical subject to treat of in an ordinary feature film that would have been shown in a cinema as part of a double bill, probably. And it's very interesting in a lot of ways. It's not a great film, but I think it's a good film. It's got music by William Alwyn, who was a very noted film composer at that time, classical composer and film composer. He also wrote music for a marvellous film called Odd Man Out, which I might well talk about another time on here, which is outstanding. But anyway, it's interesting again to me because of the way it evokes Britain in the 1950s. There's a number of things. One is there's some fantastic shots, and I've included one of these in the two little clips I'm putting on this video, of London not very long after the war, and it's incredible. I mean, half London was just a wasteland, bomb sites and so on. It looks like a city that's been destroyed, and of course large parts of it were, but life was going on normally, as it had done as far as possible, even during the Blitz. But it's a reminder of how very, very different London is now from the state it was in the early 1950s. And also the places like as I mentioned, the home for deaf and dumb children evoke a completely different atmosphere from anything like that nowadays. And also the social attitudes are interesting. Now this is a good point, that first of all, the whole subject of a deaf and dumb child was almost considered a disgrace. It was considered almost shameful to have a child like that. They were considered abnormal in a horrible kind of way. And parents, as is reflected in this film, parents were actually quite reluctant to seek treatment for them because they had to kind of admit in public that they had this so-called abnormal child. And that's an interesting illustration of the way things have changed in the last 50 or 60 years. And also other social attitudes, for example, the attitude of the husband, who has a very kind of peremptory attitude to dealing with his wife, and he's very much in charge. He's the man, he's the breadwinner, and he's in charge, and she has to fight against this a lot to get proper treatment and proper help for her child. So that's interesting as well. So it's a fascinating little film, and I think well worth watching for the way that it evokes, again, a lost world of 50th Britain. It treats a subject which at the time was very controversial and radical in a very beautifully done way. It's a very nicely put together film. It's very atmospheric. Obviously, some of the social attitudes, the ways of speaking, behaving and so on seem pretty remote nowadays. But for all that, I think this film, Mandy, from 1952, is well worth a watch. So here's a couple of clips from it, and I hope it inspires you to go and watch the whole film, which you can find very easily by searching online. Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, I always forget to say this. Could you please give a thumbs up if you find this video interesting, and do please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. And here we go from Mandy, 1952.
There were at least plenty of people who loved her and wanted to look after her and shelter her from the outside world. She spent the next 5 years being sheltered.
What do you think you're doing? What do you mean running under my wheels like that? You might have got yourself killed, understand? Dear me! Can't you keep that dog on a lead? You nearly killed a lot of us. Keep that mongrel on a lead, you understand, eh?
What happened? No, darling, you mustn't do that. Did she bite you or something? Out there? All right, darling, all right. I won't go. Mummy's got you. There. What is it, darling? Oh, never mind. Better now. I'll take her up, Mrs. Garland. Now come to Tucky, sweetheart. There's the girl. Oh.
What happened? Did the dog bite her or something?
I don't know. Something frightened her. She couldn't tell me what. Harry, I can't go on like this. It was all right when she was a baby, but now, you never know. I don't know whether she's just being naughty and playing me up, or whether there's something really the matter. There's just no contact. There must be something we can do. C-A-T. Cat. C-A-T. T. Mandy. T. Watch, Mandy. Watch. There must be something we could do. There must be someone.
Go in, Lily.
Why not?
Harry saw this place. He told me about it.
Harry didn't see it. Not properly. I found that out later. Harry saw a bit of it and then made excuses that he had to catch a train or something. He didn't give the place a chance. He just ran away from it. I I don't blame him. Dick Searle was probably rude to him, same as he is to everyone. But I'm going to make you see him and talk to him at least. Come on, Chris.
Dick, this is Christine Garland.
How do you do?
You already know about her little girl?
Oh, yes. Is she here?
No, she...
Well, I can't say whether I'll take the child without seeing her, can I?
Nobody was asking you to take her, Mr. Searle. I just wanted to see if you had anything to offer her that she isn't getting already.
Oh, I see. What is she getting already? How old?
6.
At school?
No.
Well, why not?
My husband and I have always felt that...
She needs care, gentleness, kindness, and understanding that can only be provided at home, yes, I know. Does anybody teach her anything?
She has a nurse governess.
Teaches her finger speech?
Yes.
I thought so. A nice old body of about 60, huh?
Now listen, Dick Searle. I've already told Christine that you've no manners, so there's no need to demonstrate. I also told her that you were good at your job. Which was probably an understatement. So get on with the business of showing around and take that chip off your shoulder. I've got to get back.